Hello and welcome into Big Talk, where we talk college sports with a Midwest perspective, blue collar and blue blood. I'm Dalton Shetler. That's Sam Sprunger right there. And we're both playing a little, like you just heard there, I already faded out on there. Yeah, we're a little out of sorts today. I'm lacking a bit in the sleep department. Sam might be doing that also, but Sam's also a little ill. So we're playing a little banged up today, but right. We're excited.
We're still cleaning up, and we're still putting on the game plan, but it just might be abbreviated.
So we do have a bunch of different things to get to. One being Big Ten spring sports, something to pay attention to. The NCAA softball postseason gets going today. There are 6 Big Ten teams in action for that in the regionals. Northwestern, who won the regular season and the Big Ten Tournament Championship, are moving on. Iowa, Maryland, also going to be in action, as is Nebraska, Minnesota, and Indiana. So those are the 6 teams to pay attention to for Big Ten softball. Meanwhile, Big Ten baseball, if you haven't been paying attention all year, totally okay. Now's a good time to jump in, though.
It's usually the way it works is, if you haven't, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just get to it eventually.
Well, and this is the final weekend for the regular season.
Right.
And heading into yesterday, Indiana and Maryland were tied for first place in the Big Ten Conference. Maryland beat Penn State. They had to come from behind to win 17-15 yesterday. So they stay afloat in this race. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I don't know enough Big Ten baseball history to try and put this in some kind of light, but what Maryland does offensively, I was talking with somebody from the Indiana camp, and they said when they were swept by Maryland, it was in the midst of a stretch, I think, of 5 games where they scored 88 runs.
Oh, wow. Well, I saw that IU scored, 51 in a 3-game series against Purdue this last week. So, they're putting the sticks on it, too.
Tearing the cover off the ball. But so Maryland had to come from behind. They beat Penn State, so they win. But Indiana lost at Michigan State last night. 8-6.
Go Sparty. All right.
Well, and the Spartans are fighting for their Big Ten tournament live. So again, if you're just joining in, that's totally fine in the baseball season. But for your information, the Big Ten tournament, only 8 teams make it in. And so Michigan State and Purdue are tied for that 8th spot right now.
Of course they are.
Yeah, it's always how it works out, right? The Spartans hold the tiebreaker. The Spartans, as I just mentioned, got the win. Purdue lost to Nebraska yesterday. So there's a storyline to pay attention to between Purdue, Michigan State, but also Indiana and Maryland, because Indiana is now a game back from Maryland in this Big Ten championship race. And they both play today, Friday, and they both play tomorrow, Saturday, to finish out the regular season. And I believe all those games, but with Indiana, Michigan State, and also Maryland, Penn State, because they're in the middle of a title chase, are on the Big Ten Network. So you can watch all the drama getting up to the finish line.
I will be tuning in to some of it, yes.
It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's all taking place. There's a lot of different things happening, but as we have talked about in the past, college basketball has become a little bit of the old NBA in terms of the offseason is even exciting because there's free agency pickups, there's trades. I mean, it's kind of the world we're living in now with college basketball. And there was some pretty big news that stemmed from Ann Arbor in the transfer portal this week, because Michigan, as you know, the roster is going to look a lot different. It was already thinner, and Jet Howard and Kobe Buffkin, as we knew, decided to go to the NBA draft. Hunter Dickinson shocked everybody when he decided to transfer to Kansas. There's been a couple other transfers in the mix as well, but maybe the thing Michigan fans were leaning on and counting on was pulling in star Caleb Love from North Carolina to help things out. But it just broke out this week that Caleb Love is not going to be going to the University of Michigan. It's been cited that transfers were or transfer credits were unable to make its way to Ann Arbor. So Caleb Love goes back to the portal, and from what I'm understanding from reports, a return to North Carolina is not in the mix for Caleb Love, so he's going to have to find a new home. But for Michigan's roster, this takes a blow.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you're looking to replace an All-American. I mean, no, you're never gonna expect to replace somebody like Hunter Dickinson with somebody in general. Like, you hope maybe the person eventually becomes that, but you never expect an even fill in. But he was going to help fill that gap, that void left by Dickinson. And now he's not there. Well, I mean, what is Juwan Howard going to do about this? I mean, he's still got time. I mean, to get some transfers, but excuse me, there's nothing available that's going to match what Caleb Love would have been. So I think that is a huge hit to Michigan, especially in that we've talked about this too, that this could be a make or break year.
It most certainly could be. And that's what I think it's important to note too, because you talk about what it could have looked like with Caleb Love. It's Caleb's style of play and his talent was good enough to win you some games. Not all players really fit that bill, but the thing with Caleb Love, he's good enough to win you some games almost by himself.
Right.
And he's also a player that can put himself in spots where he can start missing shots and just keep going, and it goes like there's a really high reward and there's a really high risk when he's on the floor. It's just the streaky kind of player he is. But you were kind of comfortable with the idea of living and dying with that if you were Michigan, given what your roster is. And now that that's gone, I'm with you. I don't know what the pivot is for Juwan Howard and trying to build out this roster for the year. It's going to be interesting. And again, we're talking about a Big Ten conference that just saw, as we mentioned, from Maryland, Dante Scott comes back, Jameer Young comes back. You look at Northwestern, Boo Booey's coming back again, which is,
I think, makes them a competitor next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
The idea of Boo Booey being back, forgive me, this was an oversight. I imagined he was out of eligibility. I was stunned.
I didn't think it was possible, and then I saw the news. I'm like, whoa, and they said that he had his super senior year left yet.
The COVID year. Yeah. It's so hard to keep track of everybody's eligibility that were in college during COVID, because it's made everything kind of just goofy. But yeah, so the Big Ten's got all this coming back. I mean, you and I
still should come back. Could still come back. I
was going to say, we've been texting back and forth, and we've seen some different accounts that are starting to pound the pavement, looking for Zach Edey to come back. But I would say, in all likelihood, you're probably going to see Zach Edey come back to Purdue next year. There's obviously still a chance he goes to the NBA, but sure. I think it's more probable that he's back in West Lafayette. And with what Michigan State has going, especially if AJ Hoggard and Jaden Akins come back, they're in the NBA draft process. But the Big Ten is going to be tough up top. For Michigan, you have got to find a way to acquire some more talent to kind of stay with the race that it's going to be. So that'll be interesting. But if you want to flip over to football for a moment, we should even talk about the squad that I have an interest in, Michigan State. They lost a big member of the football team just this past week. You might have seen in the news that Keon Coleman, who I think was rated by some of the different news outlets the number 2 and number 3 player available in the transfer portal. And you might remember him as the multi-sport player. He was on the basketball team a bit for the first year. He just wrapped up his sophomore year. Freshman year, he got some time, but didn't get a ton of snaps his freshman year. Last year, he broke out. And you could see all over him. It's just potential. He is athletic and strong as can be. He can create separation. He's fast. He can jump out the gym, jump over the corners. I mean, he is a playmaker. So this is a big one, too, because now for Michigan State, you have to start looking around the room and seeing if Guys like Montori Foster can step up, Trey Mosley, so on and so forth, up and down that room. And you're going to have to count on some guys that maybe need to take a bigger role than what was expected before the year. So it's a big blow to Michigan State because I think athletic speaking and playmaking speaking, this was your go-to guy for the season. And now with him being gone, Michigan State and Mel Tucker have to try and figure out a new approach as well. But it's going to be interesting. But both Michigan schools in two different sports got hit by the portal this week.
What are the like, I understand for basketball since it's, not even season, but we're getting close to what is the portal open all the time still? I knew they were talking about trying to get windows to where there were only certain windows where athletes could jump into the portal. What is the standard to this? Because it is so confusing because, they say right after spring games, look for a bunch of portal transfer moves. Well, we're 3 weeks removed from spring games now, and all of a sudden we're still hearing about transfer moves.
Correct. Yeah. So there are transfer portal windows, but
they're awful big windows if that's the case.
I'm trying to see what the dates are for them because I don't know exactly what the actual window time length itself is. And I am scrolling through trying to find something, and I'm coming up empty. But there are transfer portal windows.
It should be, and I'm sorry, but like, I don't know. They've got to put some limit on this because it seems like, everybody. I saw I forgot the player's name from Ohio State that's transferring to Wright State in basketball. He started at Wright State, played 3 years, transferred to Ohio State for a year, and then transferred back for his super senior year to go back to Wright State. I'm like, okay, I don't understand what the difference and why we're doing this. I really don't. Uh-oh. There you are. You came back.
It's just so much different movement. Oh, so yeah. And by the way, I was gonna say Tanner Holden's the player you were thinking of for Ohio State and Wright State. Transfer portal wise, so I'm looking at an article from April 15th, and it says that it was opening up a 15-day window for schools to get their rosters put together. But we're past the 15 days, and we have transfers going on. That was the second of the transfer window. So let me take a look here. This is from Sports Illustrated. It says here, and I'll quote it: the spring college football transfer portal window officially opens on Saturday, April 15th, and is scheduled to close again on Sunday, April 30th. Originally, the NCAA laid down plans to open things up from May 1st to May 15th, but the D1 Council, the body with that authority to make changes, moved the window up a little further on the calendar to correspond with spring football dates. But like I just said, we're in the middle of May now, and we just had a transfer. So I don't really know how this works, I guess, is where we're landing, because that
it doesn't make sense.
There are windows. I don't know if they hold any kind of actual power.
There's windows. Really, they just don't have glass in them when they close.
They're screens. They're screened windows.
Yeah, I guess. I don't that have Velcro in the middle and separate when you want to walk through them, evidently, because it just doesn't make sense to me as to how, it seems like almost it's like a whim. And we talked to Mo about this, Ager about this, is with the transfer. He was close to moving schools when he was at Michigan State, but he didn't want to sit out. That was the deterrent, and excuse me. There should be. I'm strong in believing that, yes, I think if the player truly believes they made a mistake at where they went to originally, they should be able to make a move free of punishment or having to sit out necessarily. But I also don't think they should be able to leave just on a whim. Oh, coach yelled at me, I'm leaving. Because that's almost the way it seems now, is they get yelled at, or they just don't they got benched or something. Well, I'm just going to enter the portal then. Okay, don't let Don't let the door hit you where the good word split you. But it's so frustrating that, it kind of handcuffs coaches to where they've got to worry about what they, and don't get me wrong, they shouldn't be abusive in what they say, but you should be able to call out a player or something if they've done something that they need to improve upon or that they need corrected in, because that's your role as a coach. And now I can't yell at him too hard because what if he transfers, and I don't know. It's like taking your ball and going home. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. And it hurts programs, and sure, another program will take him, but better be careful, because if you tick him off, he'll do the same thing to you as he did to the last program.
Well, and it hurts programs, but it also, like, kind of going back to the conversation we had with Mo Wager, like you were talking about, and he talked about how he wanted to at one point leave East Lansing, but he stuck through the process, and what he gained from that process helped him as a person.
Correct.
Like, that's the thing that's kind of getting lost. That's the argument that Tom Izzo has with the transfer portal, is that it's not that you're helping these kids when you're just letting them escape adversity at every turn. You're not allowing them to grow and develop into young men, young women, whatever. Like, you're
Correct.
robbing them of that process. And the counter, if I understand, because that process is such an intangible thing, you can't just point to it. So I understand why it gets lost in arguments, but I do believe that people fundamentally don't understand the effect that process does have on young athletes. And I think that's really kind of where this ends up. To this long conversation about transfer portal, and the effect
that's why I say let them do it. Once, you get one free move, because you know what, even adults make mistakes in selection of jobs. And
when we're talking, I don't mean to cut you off, but when we're talking about more than 1,000 some students going in the transfer portal, there is no perfect system here, because we've talked about it. Like, everything is case by case, and you can't necessarily put in a system that rules case by case. Like, you're inherently going to have a flaw with whatever judicial practice you decide to have with this, when you have that large of a volume.
Yeah, but I think the one way we can say we shouldn't be doing it is just letting them go whenever they want.
Fair.
Like it currently is.
Yep.
That isn't working.
Yep.
Because you get, he yelled at me. I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm done. And the kid goes into the portal and is at 4 different schools for 4 different years.
Yep.
And sure, there's always going to be a program that's going to take him because of the talent possibility, the talent level of the athlete, but what does that teach the kid?
Yep.
Nothing. I run when there's adversity. Honestly, how many pro leagues are going to take a kid like that says, whenever it gets hard, you run, or whenever it gets difficult, you run. I don't know. Yeah. Way too long on a conversation about the portal.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and that's the thing. Like basketball, it started to seep its way into the NBA, where these young guys get drafted, they're hurt for years on end, and then they just hit the market when they finally get their rookie contract up. So, like, this is a growing problem, but it seems to be a bigger issue in basketball, I would say, when you combine the college and professional level than maybe the other sports. But anyway, you're right. We've talked about transfer portal.
I got a question. When did what is it? It's like the G League. I saw the lottery, workout, the selections to where the order is out. And then they were saying that the mock draft, and like the top 4 under the guy from France or wherever is like a G League force, G League overtime or something like that. I don't even know what those teams are.
So there was a few years back, in trying to offer different opportunities for young basketball players, the G League created a league for a lot of these high prospects to go to
like
as
a
an alternate to
B
college.
league? Because you've got the G League, which is like the affiliates to the NBA teams. So is this an under league underneath that too?
I think it's actually a good question.
Or do they play against one another?
I believe they play against one another in the G League, but I'm not 100% sure.
And draft eligible. So do they not get paid, or do they get paid just enough to where they can, I guess it really doesn't matter anymore. You get NIL money, so it really doesn't make a difference. But
G League Ignite prospects.
That's what Ignite, and then I think there's an overtime or overdrive or something like that. There are like 4 of them.
Yeah,
4 under the guy from France, and I'm like, I mean, I'd never heard of those, and then now it makes sense.
Well, and that was around the same time that LeVar Ball was creating his league, and so like there was a time where like 3 or 4 leagues were being created at the same time, and it all kind of got lost in the shuffle. But yeah, that's where all these prospects under Victor Wembanyama are coming from.
Which I'm told is a generational talent. Like they're marking him to be another great.
If you have a day to lose, just watch highlights on YouTube.
Well, and here's the thing. San Antonio, Greg Popovich just walks into these generational talents. I mean, good Lord.
He's got a knack for them.
Good Lord, he gets the number 1 pick and he gets this guy, so I'm sure he's not going to be around for all of Victor's pro career, but he'll at least get to kick it off, I'm guessing. But geez Louise, David Robinson, he got the tail end of his pro career, but then he had all of Tim Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, and now you had Kawhi Leonard for a few years, and then gets this guy. So good for him. He needs a couple more rings.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's
he only has this many fingers.
We got just over a handful of minutes here left. So we got some other topics, and so here's how we'll play. Sam, I'm going to offer you 3 topics. You pick one. Are you ready for this?
Let's go.
Okay. Here come the 3 topics. We could talk about A.
Oh, okay.
Or are you doing one? Let's do. We could talk about 1. We could talk about an article you had sent my way, which headlines that the National Labor Association wants to file a suit against USC and UCLA, correct? The headline
and the Pac-12 and the NCAA
all together. Okay.
Yes.
So that's 1. We could talk about that. 2, we could talk about sports TV programming going behind a paywall with the recent news of the NFL wildcard game going on Peacock. There are 8 Big Ten football games this year that will be on Peacock. So that's number 2. Or number 3, group licensing coming to NCAA football, and now we can actually get the video game going and coming back next summer. Those are your 3 topics.
Oh, goodness. Well, see, I know which one you want to go with. And, honestly, let's go with that one. Let's go with the group licensing for the video game, because I think we could talk a lot longer on the sports going behind the paywall. So I think we need to maybe table that for next week and talk about that a little bit more in depth.
I am so excited. I am so excited. When this news broke earlier this week, I was so excited because we were originally scheduled to get this back this summer, and they delayed it to next summer. And also, for the context for some of the people that maybe don't play video games, NCAA football was a college football video game that I still will argue was the greatest series that's ever happened. It was amazing.
It's the one game that I would actually like you have all of the intricate ins and outs of Madden and the other role-playing games and stuff. This was the only one that I would make sure I did the right recruiting. I would do, I need this. I would pay attention to it was fantastic. Yes. Absolutely.
It was amazing. And so this was happening every year. And then 2013, they released NCAA Football 14. And
Denard Robinson was on the cover, I believe.
That's right, which, especially with it being a Michigan athlete, I had to do my own cover art, and I have my own personalized covers.
Right. Yes, you showed me.
Yeah. But after that one had released, it started to get to the point where it shut down because student athletes weren't being paid for their name, image, and likeness. So, like, if what number was O'Connell? O'Connell is what, 16, right?
Number 16, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if you were playing with Purdue, you'd see quarterback
16.
number 16. Yeah. Like, it's very clearly Aiden O'Connell, but they can't say it's Aiden O'Connell. And so finally they got in trouble where they said, hey, this isn't going to work. So they quit making the game. It's been 10 years. They have not been making the game. The beauty is if you hung on to your PS3 and NCAA Football 14, there's some like random community of these people, like just sports fans.
Dalton. Don't lie. You know who they are.
It's these sports fans, but they build a roster for all 100 and however many schools. So you could still get on and do it that way, which is what I've done for the last decade. But finally, we're actually going to get a new video game for this. And a big reason why is because the recent news that came out this week that EA Sports college football video game has been able to partner with One Team Partners, which is a group licensing group, and they're going to be able to make it so instead of QB number 16 for Purdue, it says Aiden O'Connell or whatever else. Like,
they would get their share of it.
So players will if they decide to opt in, every player has the option to opt in. If they decide to, they would be paid for it. It's a lot like NBA 2K, like all those rosters, like the players opt in for it. But like you play the classic rosters, and like Charles Barkley never gave his permission. He opted out. So like you can't.
Power forward 34.
Yeah, like it's not quite Charles Barkley or whatever. But like
Chuck Bickley.
This is one of the giant hurdles that remained in getting the product that we wanted back for this college football video game that'll come to the shelf next summer.
Yeah, and honestly, I've played some video games over the last 10 years. Some. And it was mainly because I love NCAA football. I really do. And I love that game. And it's not the main reason. I've, gotten a little bit older and I've gotten different responsibilities, but honestly, I would play more video games if I had NCAA football.
Yep.
And if it's coming back, guess what? Sammy may be a gamer soon.
I was going to say, I don't know which month it comes out. I think it normally comes out in July.
You're taking the whole month off, aren't you?
I was going to say, I don't think we're having a show when that first comes out.
Oh, no, we'll stream our games against one another.
That's actually a great content idea. Maybe that's what we end up doing for that week, because that's that should be entertaining. But I'm also curious because we haven't gotten enough details about this game yet.
Well, the last I heard, Notre Dame wasn't going to be part of it. Is this still a thing?
Well, I think their big argument or sticking point was that maybe the players not getting money for it. So I think
if that happens, they're going to probably,
which is now happening. So I believe that was their battle.
Well, good. I mean, everybody should be. It's NCAA football. Give everybody their cut. That's fine. Come on.
Yep.
They're going to make – think about this. It has been a decade-long hiatus. You know how many people have been you know how big that explosion the sales is going to be? You're not going to be able to keep it on the shelves for like 6 months.
I hate the idea of whispering this into the microphone or streaming this outside of my brain, this thought, but – do you know what you could do with that price and I would still be paying it?
Oh, like, do you think I haven't thought, I've got four kids. I could have them all get in line with me. And
oh, the memories of, I still remember when my wife and I were dating.
Oh, yes. I remember this was a famous date.
Yeah. Taking her to a GameStop at midnight where there were pizza boxes all over the floor and a line of 40 dudes just waiting to pick up their copy of NCAA Football 14.
And your wife, then your girlfriend, the only one is that wasn't a dude in the line, I'm sure.
Legitimately, it was. Like, she was the only not guy that was there waiting in line for that. But Good memories. Good memories.
Hey, you know what? That right there, the fact that she didn't say, take me home now. You knew you were marrying her, right? I mean, at that point, like, because
if you can put up with this,
yes!
This is me.
It's kind of like when I met my wife, first thing I said to her before, I didn't even know her name at this point. Or, well, I'm sorry. I just had found out her name. I'm not married. I live at home with my mom. I don't have a car, and I have a 1-year-old son. That's the first thing I told my wife. And I have been married for almost 18 years. So,
and you're just waiting for the bolt the other direction. That's
I guess it was one of those, what else do I have to, she's going to find this out eventually. Why not tell her right from the get-go?
Hey, I'm not trying to waste anybody's time. This is the deal.
This is me. What do you think?
The big question I do have, though, because we haven't gotten a ton of details on all of this yet. Dynasty mode, because of course that was the best way to play the video game.
Was the greatest. Oh my goodness, it was the greatest.
Recruiting was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Recruiting in college football's changed in the last 10 years, where we have just moaned and groaned about transfer portal and everything else for about 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness, you're going to have to worry about transfer portals out and bringing them in.
I almost wonder, if they do that, is there an NIL component to this where you're like, oh, I'm getting ready to lose a star receiver because they're being offered 6 figures by this car dealership in Omaha. I need to find with a booster and find a way to.
Oh my goodness!
Like, I'm curious how this all works.
That's a game of its own.
At that point,
management.
Well, that's why a lot of coaches now decide to prefer the NFL over college football when it used to be vice versa. But I'm curious, because that would almost be an exhausting experience at that point.
Yeah,
but
I think there's certain aspects to what the college game is now that probably, you're right, would be too exhaustive almost to the point where you're like, okay,
you don't even want to play the video.
You throw I quit. That's their whole decision. They're just doing it one more year just to piss everybody off, so they don't want to play it anymore.
That's actually a great theory.
Give me 2013 back.
Yeah, no, it's
maybe it's going to be more of a general, like, oh, hey, he gets offered, this for an NIL deal, or, whatever. And it may be that they throw that aspect into it. You need to find him $50,000 more in NIL money, or he's transferring. Okay, well, I don't care, and let him go, or you go find it, and I don't know if you're like me, but I always was like, yeah, you're going to be here for only 2 seasons longer anyways, so I'm going to recruit the next guy for you, and your replacement anyways. And
just start hunting 3 stars and say, we're going back to the old ways. We're grinding as a program.
That's right. You know what? When you play the games yourself instead of put them on what is it, skip mode or whatever, or simulation, I win them anyways. So I'm gonna give me 3 stars. I'll win them, and they're happy to be where they're at.
That's right. That's
now. Do you take a school, or do you make your own?
Oh, I take a school. You make your own school?
I made my own the last time that I was there. I was in 2013 or 2014. I made Indiana Tech.
Oh, nice.
So. And for those who don't know where, that's in a small little commuter school. Well, actually, they have dorms now, plenty of dorms now. It's actually about 4 times the size it was when I went there. But they're a technical school, Indiana Tech in Fort Wayne. They're a good baseball team. They've got some good athletes in athletics. But yeah, I formed a football team there, and rose the Warriors to national dominance. Yeah,
I do love taking like a mid-major is what I always used to do. I'd take a MAC school and ride them to the Sun, or a Sun Belt team, and just take them to national prominence. Yeah, I'm totally with you. But
I took Duke one year to the national championship game.
These are the things you have to look forward to next summer when Sam and I are streaming our NCAA football video game experiences. So something to look forward to. Pocket.
That'll be behind the paywall.
That's right. We're fully looping this thing around now. All right, we need to shut down shop for Big Talk here this week.
It's abbreviated, kids, but that's all right.
Yeah, Sam, on the way out, let everybody know where they can find us, because we've had some changes, and make sure everybody's able to find us in the normal spots.
Yes, sir. Well, I forgot to add TikToks up there to it, but the Instagram and the Twitter, it's at B1G _talk. So at Big Talk, but B1G, like the Big Ten, B1G _talk. Then go to or you can go to Facebook, B1G Big Talk. You'll find us. Excuse me, through the end of July, unless we start streaming. No, that's next year, isn't it? It's not this summer, is it?
That's right. I know. It was supposed to be this summer, and it just.
That's all right. We'll survive one more year. I mean, we've done it for a decade. I think we can manage, right?
It's like a light at the end of the tunnel, just keeps dancing further away from me.
Pushed it further back.
Yeah.
They built
like I'm in the desert, and the illusion is just, kind of
the mirage
escaping
just
me.
got further away. Through the end of July, we're on once a week on ASAP Network. After that, once football season starts, we'll move to twice a week. Well, I will move to twice a week. The show will move to twice a week. We have changed networks for our other network. We were on Odd Pods. We are no longer on Odd Pods. We are with the Lounge Media Group. Surprise, that's my media group. But it's the same new network, same show. Nothing will change with the show in the aspect of how things operate or anything like that. You can find us anywhere. Spotify if you want to watch us. If you don't find us on ASAP, you can watch us on Spotify every week, or you can listen to the audio version anywhere you find podcasts.
All right. So that does it for another edition of Big Talk. Thank you all so much for tuning in and joining us this week. That's Sam Sprunger. I'm Dalton Shetler. Until next week, so long.
See ya.